Welcome back to the frozen sanctuary of truth. You've watched the narcissist move through the world like an invincible conqueror, siphoning vital marrow from your spirit. But today, we perform the autopsy on the predator's final destiny. We are uncovering the sexual curse that claims them when the mask melts. This is the end of the line for the hunter. Welcome to the midnight hour. Imagine a high-end sports car sitting in a dark garage, looking magnificent and intimidating, but the internal wiring is corroded by a slow-acting acid. That is the narcissist in their twilight years. They crave the high of the harvest, but they are biologically incapable of processing the energy they steal. To them, intimacy was never a union, it was a clinical and cold extraction. Have you ever noticed that strange, vibrating tension in an aging narcissist's skin? You thought they were winning the game of seduction, but you were actually witnessing a biological system in a state of permanent overheat. They are frequency pirates who have hacked into too many souls, and the lag is finally becoming lethal. The somatic junkie is running out of fresh veins to tap. The big haunting question we are answering today is this: what is the sexual curse that every narcissist suffers from at the end of their life? It isn't a condition found in a medical textbook, but a clinical decay of the soul. While you are seeking peace and restoration, they are facing a visceral horror. They are facing the total absence of a self in a body that is failing. You've spent years wondering why they turn into a stranger before the sheets are even cold. It isn't just about control, it is about the transfer. They are offloading their internal toxic waste into your nervous system. They walk away looking refreshed, while you are left feeling heavy and aged. Today, we expose the biological debt they can never repay in their final hour. This is the secret knowledge the predator never wanted you to find. They want you to believe they are the ones who hold the power, that they are the gods of seduction. But the truth is, they are more dependent on your reaction than a junkie is on a needle. Their somatic necrosis is the internal price of a life lived as a parasite. They are empty vessels that have finally cracked. Imagine the psychological weight of being a person who only exists if someone else is reacting. When the world goes quiet at the end of their life, their mirror goes dark. They are left alone with the one person they hate more than anyone else, the hollow child hiding behind the mask. The night is the mirror that refuses to lie, and the narcissist is now drowning in the truth. They crave the high of the harvest, but they are biologically incapable of processing the energy they steal. Every conquest was just a temporary bandage on a wound that is festering in the dark. As the years pass, the internal rot begins to manifest physically. They are biohazards of unprocessed trauma, carrying the residue of everyone they have ever used. They are the plague. Stay with me, because we are about to pull back the heavy curtains on the narcissist's internal famine. We are going to expose the hidden fears that make their old age a lethal game of Russian roulette. This is not just a story. It is a clinical breakdown of an unraveling ego. You will never look at their performance the same way again. The power is shifting back to your hands now. This first chapter is your sanctuary of clarity. You have been blaming your inadequacy for the distance in the house, but the distance is the narcissist's own internal decay. They lost the bet the moment you decided that your peace was more important than their dopamine hit. As we move into the breakdown, remember, their agony is the most honest thing they will ever truly own. To understand the sexual curse, we must analyze the somatic machinery of a body without a core. A narcissist is a human-shaped void that requires a constant stream of external data to simulate a personality. In their final act, they are not seeking pleasure, they are performing a clinical extraction to power a lie. They are junkies of the skin with no internal home to return to. Metaphorically, the narcissist is a high-end hologram that requires a constant stream of data from the projector. You are that data. When the connection is severed in old age, the image starts to glitch. By the time the somatic weakness takes hold, the projected image of the lover is flickering. You see the gray child hiding in the pixels. This visibility is death to the abuser. Their hidden motive for the sexual hunt was always internal regulation. A narcissist cannot regulate their own emotions, they need to offload their toxic waste into a receptacle. They used you as a psychological kidney to filter the poison out of their system. But when the partners disappear, the filtration fails. The acid of their malignancy stays inside and starts to burn them. We must talk about the narcissistic void as a spiritual hunger that eats character. Because they have no internal pilot, they are blown by the winds of external validation. When the physical supply was high, they felt inflated. But in the absence of that high, they flatline. This flatline is a psychic death. Their necrosis is the hardening of their malice into a physical weight. Imagine a star that has run out of hydrogen. It begins to contract and collapse under its own gravity. That is the narcissist in the end stage of their life. They have burned through all their supply sources and their reputation is tarnished. They are isolated in a cold universe of their own creation, frantically searching for a sun to siphon, but they are too heavy to move now. Their internal chaos is a static storm of projective identification. They identified you as the abuser so they could feel like the victim. This roleplay was the only way they could avoid the mirror. But now the voices in their head are getting louder. They see your ghost in every room, not because they miss you, but because they miss the energy they looted from your very spirit. The narcissist is a somatic junkie who has worn out their nervous system. They have spent decades chasing the dopamine of conquest, but the law of diminishing returns has kicked in. Each new lie requires more effort for a smaller hit. Their reward circuitry is burned out. They are anhedonic, incapable of feeling joy even when they win. They are climbing to their funeral pyre. In the dark, the narcissist experiences what we call somatic dissociation. They literally lose the ability to feel their own skin. They need the friction of another soul to convince themselves that they are solid. Without that friction, they feel like they are dissolving into the gray static of the void. This is the sexual disease of a soul that has completely lost its center. Deep down, the narcissist finds human vulnerability and physical need to be repulsive. It reminds them of their own powerlessness. They despise you for loving them. But in this state of prolonged absence, the disgust is splashbacking. They are disgusted by their own face in the mirror. They are drowning in a sea of self-loathing, and every hand they reach for is a hand they bit. The psychological breakdown reveals an abuser as a closed system running out of entropy. They are cooling down to absolute zero. Their biological rot is the end of the motion. As we move into the turning point, you will see what happens when the empath finally switches off the lights. You are going to see the power shift from the hungry ghost to the radiant and sovereign sun. The dramatic turning point arrives when the predator realizes the new supply no longer works. It happens in the icy silence of a lonely bedroom, when the narcissist realizes the stolen vitality isn't sticking. The skin no longer glows, it sags under the weight of 1,000 lies. This is the psychological plot twist they never saw coming. The supply has finally gone toxic. Watch the narcissist's panic when the mirror refuses to reflect. They are addicts who have just been cut off by their dealer. They will try a hysterical Hoover, crying fake tears and promising heaven and earth just to see if the old strings still pull. But you are not moving. This stillness is traumatic to the predator. They scent their own irrelevance. You are finally gone. This is the moment of internal sovereign alignment where you realize the abuse was a filter they placed over your eyes. You take the filter off and see the abuser for what they actually are, a small, frightened, empty shell screaming for attention. The rot is visible now. You see the grayness. You don't feel anger anymore, you feel clinical observation. You are the scientist now. When rage fails, they pivot to strategic victimhood. They will invent illnesses or financial crises to guilt-trip you into resuming the connection. They are frantically trying to load the syringe of their shame and inject it into your compassion. But you see the calculation. You recognize the performance. By naming the demon, you strip its power and walk past the bait safely. The silence of the empath becomes the acid that accelerates the rot. Without your empathy to heal the wounds they self-inflict, the abuser's internal injuries fester. They start fighting with everyone else. They burn their own house down just to feel the heat. They are spiraling into chaos because they cannot exist without a calm center to disturb. You were that anchor. They attempt a malignant discard to save the last shred of their ego. They announce to the world that you are the problem, that you are the narcissist. This is a psychological confession of their internal failure. They are projecting their own death onto you. But you are relieved. You accept the discard like a lethal promotion. You watch them walk out and feel the density lift. Show the shift in the energetic signature of your life. The moment the abuser is gone, the space sanctifies. You strip the bed, you burn the sage, and you open the windows. You realize that the spiritual necrosis was a contagion they brought into your temple. Now that the carrier is gone, your vitality returns. You breathe into your center and feel the radiance of your spirit. This is a psychological shift. You forgive the vessel for absorbing the rot. You realize your body was just trying to survive a toxic spill. You nurture the flesh with self-respect. You realize the relationship was a dark initiation that forced you to find your internal sword. You thank the trauma for breaking the mirror and revealing the sovereign. You have finally graduated. This is the moment of total detachment. You look at the past and you don't feel pain, you feel physics. You see the mechanism of the transfer. The abuser is a name you barely remember. They are a minor malfunction in the great machine of your evolution. The turning point is absolute. You are inhabiting your life with an intensity that is terrifying to the weak. You are home. As we move into the collapse, remember, the abuser depends on your reaction to stay 3D. By withdrawing your focus, you have deleted their existence in your universe. They are going to panic. They are going to burn their own world down to get your attention. But you are no longer the firefighter. You are watching the fire from the high ground, safe in your own sovereignty. The collapse of the narcissist is a spectacle of absolute void. When the empath stops absorbing the rot, the abuser's false self shatters from the internal pressure of its own nothingness. They experience narcissistic mortification, the psychic death they've been running from since childhood. You will see them acting out with manic recklessness. Their mask is melting like acid. Their social consequences are swift and public. As the recovered empath moves through the world with quiet dignity and icy indifference, the abuser's smear campaign evaporates into the stench of desperation. The truth has its own gravity. People start seeing the pattern of the withered victims the abuser leaves behind. You are the witness who survived the clinical autopsy. The internal panic of the abuser becomes a manic screaming for new supply that no longer exists in your space. They look for you in every face they exploit, but no one can reflect the God image you once gave them. They are starving for the high-grade empathy your sacred energy used to provide, but the pharmacy is permanently closed. They killed the golden goose for sport. Watch the harsh truth of their new life. They look old. They look grey. They look brittle. The life force they stole from you has expired, and they have no internal reactor to generate more. They are cursed to repeat the same loop with lesser and lesser souls until they draw their last breath. They are trapped in a body that is closing down, haunted by the memory of the sun. The tone is brutally cold and analytical. The abuser is a parasite that underestimated the resilience of the empath. By moving on physically and spiritually, you have executed the predator. They are the walking dead, carrying the corpse of their own ego. They hate you for surviving their spiritual warfare. Every breath of peace you take is a poison to their delusion. Internal panic leads to pathological stalking of your happiness. They analyze your every post, searching for a sign of pain, a sign of return. But they find nothing but strength. This strength is traumatic to the abuser. It debunks their God complex. It proves they are just a glitch in your evolution. They are screaming from the shadows, trying to cast a spell you don't hear. The social discard concludes with the final isolation. The flying monkeys have woken up. The family has distanced themselves. The abuser is left alone with the ghost of the one they couldn't destroy. This isolation is the mirror they feared their whole life. In the silence, they are forced to hear the echoes of their own lies. They are stroking the air where you used to be. Brutally truthful analysis. The abuser failed because they miscalculated the resilience of the spirit. They thought they could starve the empath, but they only forced the empath to hibernate and evolve. Once you wake up and retain your energy, you are invisible to their manipulation. The narcissist is a shadow that cannot exist in the presence of your internal solar truth. Intensify the collapse. You watch their disintegration with a sense of sacred justice. You don't feel vengeance, you feel order. You see that the world is actually safe because you are the one who defines your reality. The abuser's rage is a distant noise that no longer reaches your frequency. You are healing at a speed they cannot match. The monster is finally, clinically, dead. As we enter the final truth, look at the ruin of the abuser and realize, you are the winner. The rot was just the shell of your evolution. You have found the key. You have opened the door. You have walked into the world and the world recognized you. The final truth is cinematic, empowering, and saturated with radiance. The collapse is complete. The sunrise is now internal. We have reached the final truth. The rot you witnessed in the abuser was never your fault. It was the inevitability of a life lived without a soul. You were the oxygen tank they used to survive the vacuum of their own narcissism, but today, you have disconnected the line. They are finally breathing the air of a world they poisoned, and the weight of that air is lethal to them. Emotional closure comes from the absolute knowledge that the abuser never existed as the person you loved. You were in love with a reflection of your own empathy. Today, you have taken the reflection back. You are closing the case file on the predator. You have realized that their hate was a badge of honor. A being of darkness will always hate the sun. You are the sun. Healing is the cinematic slow burn of presence. It is the feeling of the ground under your feet, the sound of your own voice telling the truth, and the sight of a future that is unwritten and safe. You are reprogramming your nervous system to expect beauty and respect. You are learning that empathy is a superpower, not a sentence. You are finding your soul in the quiet. Empowerment is the quiet strength of the empath who refused to stay defined by the predator. You have seen the bottom of the abyss and you brought back the fire. You are unshakable. The narcissist's screams from the shadows are just background noise in the symphony of your life. You have changed the frequency. You are tuned into the voice of the universe and the earth. You are part of a global awakening of sovereign empaths who are refusing to be supply. We are collective strength. We are spiritually invincible. The narcissist's obsession with your energy was the last stand of a dying parasite. The age of the predator is ending. The age of the authentic is beginning. Your voice is a siren of truth for others who are still shaking. Imagine the final scene. You are standing on a mountain peak at dawn. The wind is blowing through your spirit, cleansing the last traces of the abuser's shadows. Below you, the dark valley of the narcissistic trap is dissolving in the light of the new day. Above you, the sky is exploding with colors you can finally see again. You are whole. You are complete. You are home. Cinematic closing imagery. The abuser is now a distant ghost, stalking the ruins of a life they burnt. They are screaming at the wind, begging the dust to become the host again. But the dust stays dust. You are flesh and blood, light and fire, moving at the speed of joy. You have found your tribe. You have found your peace. The spiritual necrosis was just a dark cocoon. The final truth deliverance. The narcissist tried to kill the empath because they were terrified of what would happen if the soul went sovereign. They wanted to keep you as a battery, but the battery exploded into a sun. You are magnificent. You are unstoppable. You have won the game by walking off the field. You have ascended beyond the manipulation. The ghost is dead. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your right to walk the earth with confidence and dignity. The sexual killer, the psychological parasite, and the emotional arsonist have no power here in the presence of your light. Use it to warm your own life. Use it to create beauty. You are a generator of universal light, and the grid is restored. You are the master. The narcissist's final curse is the biological debt of a life spent hunting souls, but your victory is the radiant pulse of a heart that refused to go dark. Walk into your future with the fire of the chosen, because the predator has finally run out of time and you have just begun to live. The act is over, the mask is shattered, and you are finally, irrevocably free.